Well, hello. It's Monday. Today is August 24th, 2020. I'm Angela Hooper-Menifield, and this is your HR Moment with Menifield and Associates. Hope you guys had a great weekend. For those of you who are part of my JMT tribe, we had day one, our think tank for our event. So that was pretty good. I'm looking forward to next week where we have the rest of our event. And so many events now are virtual, right? And so we're really having to learn and acclimate to virtual events. And so today in our HR moment, I like to talk a little bit about an issue that was brought up by someone who I am in a group with. I'm in some of these supervisor groups, Facebook groups where, people come and they're looking for, hey, Kamika, hey, Addie. That's my mama, Addie. so, um, so yeah, I'm in some of these groups, right? And so somebody had a question because they were dealing with something and they were trying to figure out, how do you deal with the backlash of terminating an employee? And so, that's a really good question because often as supervisors, what people don't understand is having to terminate someone can be very stressful. Not only is it stressful for the person who is terminated, needless to say, unless they were looking to get terminated, but it's stressful for the supervisors. It can be stressful for the team. And often, in addition to having to deal with our own emotions as supervisors and managers, after we terminate someone, we have to deal with the emotions of other people. And so when in the workplace there is, hey, Sharman, how are you? In the workplace, when other people get upset because their peers or their coworkers have been terminated, it is something, again, that we have to address. And so this particular person in the group that I'm in said that her team was so angry that she had terminated someone that there are certain people on the team that don't even want to work for her anymore. I'm thinking, wow, that's pretty strong. I guess I've had that actually, now that I think about it, happen to me like one time that I recall at least knowing that when I terminated someone, that somebody else felt that strongly about it. And so, if you're a supervisor and you have been put in that position that you have to terminate someone, I would love to hear from you guys. Like, how have you dealt with the backlash and the anger from other people? Or maybe it's not anger, maybe it's the quote unquote cold shoulder. How have you dealt with that in the past, if at all? And so, I can tell you some of the advice that I give is number one, I don't take it personal. And sometimes it's hard to not take it personal, but you just really can't because those people are mourning, right? That's a sign of a little bit of mourning, the anger, the being upset. They're mourning the loss of their friend, coworker, or whatever. Oftentimes when people are terminated, we as supervisors have to know that they're operating off of a version of the story that may or may not be accurate, right? Because think about it, the person who was terminated can talk very openly and freely about why they were terminated. There's no repercussion. They can say whatever and it doesn't have to be factual. On the other side, for those of us who are managers, we can't discuss that. We can't say, oh no, this is what really happened. And if you do that, please don't do that again. That is illegal. So we have to respect people's privacy, right? So we cannot share the intimate facts of why a person was terminated. What we can do is acknowledge it happened, right? So it's like you can't show up for work every day and pretend like nothing happened. People, again, many of them are traumatized depending on how it happened. Some terminations are more volatile than others, where the person walked out, slammed the door, it was highly emotional. And some are more subtle, as in one day a person was at work and then another day they're not, right? And people was like, hey, what happened to Joe? What happened to Ann? And you're like, oh, they don't work here anymore, right? And so depending on how it happens as well, it can cause again some anxiety for our teams. So for us, the manager, the supervisor, who is again who I am in the area of trying to help, we cannot discuss it to the point of the details, but we can't acknowledge it. So again, acknowledge, no, Joe, Sally doesn't work here anymore. Because there's also some other unknowns that people have in their mind. Number one, who's going to do Joe and Sally, who's ever it is, who's going to do their work? Right? So who will take on the responsibilities? There can also be some fret, as in people saw that person be terminated. They're afraid, like, am I next? Was the termination for cause? Was it budget issues? Sometimes there's people don't know why people got fired. And again, we only know if we know anything often what the person says or what the rumor mill says. So I think as managers and supervisors, while I don't entertain rumors, I do believe we have a responsibility to discuss the elephant in the room. So, what is the issue at hand? What are people thinking or not talking about? What is the tension in the air? And have a discussion. So, let's discuss it. So, you could say, well, many of you may know or may or may not know, Angela is no longer working here. As a result of her no longer being employed, we've looked at some of the core duties, and as such, this is how we'll divvy them up, right? But let's talk about it. Another thing I think as supervisors and managers that is really important that we do is we affirm or bring positive emotion to the other team members. So, in the event that there is a fear that I may be next, whoever I am, can we talk a little bit about, you know, where the organization is? Is everybody okay? Um, and what I mean by okay is not just okay with their emotions, but are we okay? Is there a financial issue? And again, we can sweep it under the rug all day long, but it doesn't work. Um, and if it was a performance issue or a conduct issue, at some points and time, not necessarily immediately following this, but we might need to just make sure everybody knows what are the quote unquote fireable offenses. I tell people all the time in every organization, there are deal breakers. And so employees need to know what are the deal breakers? What are the things that can get you terminated? And then what are the performance metrics that we're looking at to make a determination whether or not someone stays employed? Now, again, smaller organizations may not be as structured, not suggesting that they shouldn't be, but they may not be, which is one of the reasons why I often help organizations with things like performance metrics and whatever type of criteria they want to have to say what is acceptable performance, right? And then what are the behavioral requirements to stay here? Because basically there should be only one or two reasons why we're terminating people because of behavior that is not in compliance or acceptable and or inadequate or poor performance. Reasons absent of that, we just need to be treading very lightly because that's where we can get caught up in it appearing that maybe we're using non-work related reasons to let people go. So after that, I think another thing that we can do to deal with the backlash is see what can we do to improve morale. So again, in the illustration that I gave you, the person asked today, how can they deal with this? Because there are other team members who have even told her to her face, they don't want to work for her anymore. Now, there's a couple of ways we can deal with that, right? If someone comes to you as their supervisor and says, I no longer want to work for you, I would never do that. But again, everybody's not me. And so you probably know that I'm a firm believer in freeness of speech as long as it's not disrespectful. And so if a person says, I don't know if I don't want to work for you anymore, I would say, well, I understand that this may be very emotional for you, but you just may want to consider that there could be some factors here that you're not aware of. But ultimately, while you're a value to the team and we appreciate having you here, none of us are going to force you to stay, right? This is a free country, um, and we have free will. And so people don't have to work where they don't want to work. So for us, again, as the supervisor, it's important that we do allow freedom of speech because you don't want people to be intimidated. So again, we think about, acknowledging and again addressing the decision. And then we want to, continue to talk about what are the future plans and goals of the organization, especially if there is some concern about other people's job being in jeopardy. And this had nothing to do with performance or behavior, as in this was strictly a financial decision. We talked about refresh people on the rules and responsibilities. And then we should praise those who are remaining, thank them for the work that they do, but of course, be sincere. And then, like I said, lighten the office environment because things can get tense. And we don't want that tension. We want people, again, to feel safe, to feel like they have secure jobs, but also not be upset. Ultimately, the choice to be upset is personal. And I know a lot of people don't agree with me on this, but I think we do make choices every day as to whether or not we want to allow something to affect us to what degree. Um, and as employees, again, we just have to remind them, and probably in a setting that's not tense, that there's always another side to the story. And while we cannot tell them the facts that they don't know, hopefully we've earned goodwill, noble intent, right? That people will give us the benefit of the doubt and say something along the lines of, well, while I don't know why, person X was terminated, I know Angela, if she terminated them, she had a good reason. And I think that's really all we can really ask of people, right? That they, again, assign us noble intent and offer us an opportunity to at least be right. Um, I got some comments on my phone. Let's see. Tina says, many organizations act like determination doesn't exist. The elephant in the room. Yes, definitely. And then Sharman says, we can control the circumstances, but we can control how we react. Oh, probably we cannot control the circumstances, but we can control how we react to what is presented to us. Exactly. So as supervisors, again, the burden is on us to carry the team, to bear it on our shoulders. Yes, things will be said that are not true, and we just have to know that it is what it is. But at the end of the day, maintain our integrity, make sure we operate in fairness, in equity, as well as equality, and then ensure again that expectations are clear so people are not blindsided by terminations. And if it is a financial issue, then again, have the conversation. Let people know, so that they don't have to be paranoid. So give them updates. So some of us made some decisions in March that are different than the decisions we're making about our businesses in August. And so as situations change, I think give people as much transparency as you can without overdoing it. Some of us over communicate. We tell people everything, and all that does is create anxiety and stress for them. So we don't want to over communicate, but when we communicate, we want to be transparent, effective, clear, and concise about what's going on. And then let people know at what point the next update is coming. So they don't have to worry about, well, what about this and what about that, right? Because all of these things add to anxiety. And we don't want that for our team or ourselves, right? So thank you guys for watching, whether you're watching on any of the many platforms. I appreciate you. If you watch it later and it's added value to you, thank you. Tell me what other things out there that you need discussed so we can get some clarity on, because these videos are made strictly to add value and to help people. So again, my name is Angela Hooper-Menifield. This is my HR moment for Monday, August 24th, 2020. We'll be back on Wednesday with another HR moment. Appreciate you watching, and I hope everybody has a great day. Stay safe. Those storms are coming, so definitely stay safe. Take care, everybody.